there and welcome to Find Your Voice. My name is Joe Cramond and I'm the host of the show. Today we've got a very special guest, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. She's a degreed investor relations and public relations marketing executive with 30 years experience in business and planning, marketing, investing, relations and operations. Patricia, wonderful to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to be
No
here.
problem at all. So, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Patricia, and what your experiences are.
Okay. Well, I have 35 years experience in investor relations, public relations, media relations, and marketing. I guess the cool thing is that I've always worked on the agency side. So I've worked with clients from around the world in just about every niche under the sun. So it's pretty fun and exciting for me.
Yeah, it sounds great. It says also that you're a third times best-selling author as well.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, wow.
I have actually another book that I'm speaking to a publisher on now. So hopefully that one comes out within the next year.
No, that's great. We've got many authors on our books. I'll excuse the pun on our roster, shall we say?
Nice.
That we're doing an actual authoring summit as well. So we're actually
Nice.
collectively getting all of our authors together to discuss the journey. That's wonderful. So, okay, well, for our audience's benefit, we're going to ask Patricia some questions, get to know a little bit more about her and about her background, and hopefully have some insights for you guys. So when you're ready, Patricia, we'll get started.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Perfect. So if you had a business card, Patricia, what would it say? What would be on your business card?
Well, I guess for me, I always just say, be a lifelong learner. So many people get complacent and they just go with the flow and, they don't evolve and you're going to be left behind in the world. The world is constantly changing and evolving. So I am always learning, and I always look in the marketing world and I'm like, okay, what are other people doing? Or even at job placements, what are you looking for in a person? Do I have that skill? If not, I need to get that skill, because I always say a client's success is my success. So if I don't do a good job, well, then that looks bad on me. So, just constantly keep learning. So be a lifelong learner.
Yes, exactly. And then marketing especially is so ever changing fast, isn't it? It really is.
Overnight. I mean, it's insane.
Exactly. Algorithms and platforms making different changes and restricting things and all sorts of stuff. It's it's a bit of a minefield, but if you know what you're doing, that's why people need advice. Companies definitely need advice when it comes to a marketing strategy. So why on paper then should you have never been successful?
Well, I guess it's kind of funny how I always feel people judge a book by its cover. So, if you didn't know me, you wouldn't have known my life story. And people always just assume, you had it all, you had it. I was a single mom of 2 kids, right out of high school, working as a secretary in a job. And I pushed and pushed and pushed, put myself through college. I was working 18-hour days just to try to get my college degree so that I can work up the corporate ladder. But if you just, and I remember way back then as a single mom of 2 kids, everybody was always like, you're just going to be, you're never going to amount to anything. You just threw your life away by having kids so young. And, that was just the persona that everybody gave me. And I was determined to prove everybody wrong. So if you didn't know my story, you would have just looked at me and said, yeah, she's just going to be who she is. She's going to be a secretary or receptionist for the rest of her life. And I proved them all wrong.
Yeah, that's very inspiring. So is that some of the topics that you touch upon within your books?
Yeah, well, the one book you probably can't see here, but it's called Life's Obstacles Can Be Your Biggest Motivators. And it really, not that I wanted to air my dirty laundry out, but it was really showing people that no matter what you're going through, you're not alone. Other people have gone through it and are going through it, and you just have to have faith in yourself, push through, and you can succeed in the end. So
yeah. No, that's great. Well, feel free to grab the book and show our audience if you like. Hold up to the camera if they want to see what it's about. So,
oh, sorry.
That's great. That's a great cover as well. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and yeah. I mean, I just like I said, it was just really just going through all of my hurdles and obstacles, and like I said, people who didn't know me. Just what when they read it, they're like, wow, and the crazy part is every time you think you've gone through enough, because my next book takes that to the next level. And right. I did a podcast just the other day with a woman who went through 10 times worse than me. And I'm just like, it's nice to know that you're not alone when you deal with stuff, and that no matter how bad your situation is, there's always somebody who has it worse. And, here she is successful helping other people. So, people do survive and people do push through, and it's helpful for someone in that situation to know that.
Yeah, it's very inspiring. I mean, it's a difficult one online because everyone's trying to put a bit of a mask and a persona on, aren't they? It's all about trying to validate and show off, should not show off, but kind of like prove that they are successful so they can get business, so they can try and attract the right people, but a lot of people don't really reveal their vulnerabilities and their history of sort of failure or challenges they've faced as much.
Yeah.
And it's something that really makes you authentic, having those conversations and things like that.
Thanks.
So, yeah, it's
Like I
very,
said, even the next book, I was a little hesitant about it because it takes things to even a more extreme. And, I know people from the business aspect are always like, you don't want to say that. And I'm like, I honestly don't want to say it, but I think people need to know this. I mean,
yeah, no, definitely.
and I always say, my work speaks for itself. So if you want to judge me by a, book by its cover and not speak to me because of that, well, you're lost because I know
Those
I'm
people
good at
aren't.
what I do.
Yeah, exactly. They're not worth your time. 100%. So, okay, well, we're going back a little bit into your past again then. So what would 10 of your old schoolmates sort of how would they have described you?
Well, I was always that bookworm, that perfectionist. So I don't know. It depends where in the school I was. So certain years I was that nerdy kid who just always had her face in books and always just doing what I consider the teacher's pet because I always did my homework, always did everything. And then when I moved on to high school and started to evolve, I was that daredevil who tried everything, pushed the limits. You kind of go through that evolution in high school. So depending where I am on the field, I was either the nerdy bookworm, teacher's pet, or the girl who no holds barred, going for it, and then just took every chance you possibly could. But still graduated high school valedictorian, graduated college 4.0. So in between, they both merged.
Yeah, no, that's you certainly are a hard worker. Like the fact that you're working that many hours as well and stuff and dealing with young family on your own, that's really admirable.
Yeah,
So yeah, it must have been tough. Was that the one job? You have multiple jobs within sort of catering and restaurant industry or?
yeah, well, what's crazy is that I'm not like I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but like my first job, I stayed there for 16 years. They wound up closing the door, so then I was forced to find another job. Went to another company for 6 years. Every client I had followed me, which was cool. Stayed there for 6 years, and then they were closing the door, so then I started my own company. The other jobs, the restaurants and all that. Some of them were like when I was in high school, going to school and working. And then the other parts were, at one point, you'll read in the book, I went through a whole big horrendous relationship at one point who wiped out my bank accounts. And now I'm like juggling other jobs. So I was working full time and then, picking my kids up, dropping them off to a babysitter, then going to, a restaurant job, doing what I could to try to not have the roof collapse.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, you've certainly pushed through it, and I'm sure your kids are very proud of you. So it's
I hope
yeah,
so.
yeah, it's great. So, well, when was the last time you did something that scared you?
It's funny. The crazy part, I was always afraid of heights. So going back, I don't know, like 20 years ago, I did a skydive to get over fear of heights. And I quickly learned that there's a height perception and a depth perception. And I'm not afraid of heights. I'm not afraid of jumping out of an airplane at all, but put me on a roof and I'm like terrified. So being the perfectionist that I am, I did the one skydive, but then had to be the best at it. So then I went on to training and became an instructor and all that good stuff. So hey, that was awesome. I did that for 15 years and then had a skydiving accident, and that kind of brought a lot of other issues, but it's all good now. So that, I guess, was that one thing to get over fear of heights. That was kind of scary. Then you'll read about it in my next book. I was in a situation that was 100 times more scarier, but I just roll with the punches. It's it's all you can do.
Could you summarize what that was, just for the interest of just what people who might want to buy the book?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. So when I fell for this accident, I suffered TBI, a traumatic brain injury. And what it did was, like I spent a month in a hospital, don't remember any of this. I don't remember the accident at all. It took a while, and the doctor said they can't tell you with a brain. Is it going to be better today, tomorrow, a year, 10 years, 100? We don't know. Will it get better? 5%, 10%? We don't know. So as it was getting better, I guess on the surface I appeared totally fine, but I wasn't. I was falling for like many scams that before I would have caught on to that right away and would have been like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. But I didn't know. And I seemed to be okay, but I was falling for all these and wound up wiping me out so much money and the whole bit. And I didn't know. It's like wiped out my bank account. Then at one point I was given, I got this email from somebody else that I had hired from this online agency, Upworks. So you're dealing with people from another country, and they tell me I'm with this IMF program, and I'm going to be initiated into this entrepreneurial program, and they pay for me to go to a trip to Peru, where I'm supposed to be initiated into this program. And I'm thinking, oh, this is awesome. Needless to say, it was a scam, and I get arrested in a third world country where I don't speak the language. So that's all in my next book. It was quite the ordeal.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Wow. Yeah, well,
Yeah. I always say, just when you say things can't get any worse, can they? Oh, yes, they can.
no, that's fascinating. Yeah, be careful when you go on Upwork. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's kind of like you really need to do your due diligence on who
Yeah.
you're speaking
Well,
to.
I didn't, again, my brain wasn't 100%, but it wasn't until after that happened where everyone said every scam that I fell for came through the same kid. And I'm like,
right.
interesting. Now that you say that, I realize that. So you're not
Yeah.
dealing with them one-on-one. Well, you kind of are, but you're not. And you assume that Upworks did their due diligence with who they put there. They don't do anything.
Unfortunately, it's a shame at the moment that so many people are looking for quick ways to make money as well, and easy options, and they're desperate
Ridiculous.
to try and get some assistance in their business. And there's a lot of people taking advantage of that. But yeah, it's a shame. Well, when it comes to advice, then what do people seek you out for at the moment, currently?
I guess at this point, a lot of people, like especially with the marketing, they're just always asking, like, how do you still stay afloat? Like with COVID and everything, so many people have just collapsed and ventured off. And I'm not saying it was easy either. We dealt with a lot of issues, but like I said, I'm always evolving and learning. What could I do different? And then evolving with the times. Okay, we're not having meetings. We could do Zoom, and constant networking. Like I network even with people in the same space as me, and people say, no, that's a competitor. We just work the same in a different space. It's, you learn from one another. So when people always ask me, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, just rolling with the punches. That's all you can do. And, and just constantly, and the thing too is that I don't charge crazy fees. I always feel I'd rather have somebody with me for a long time to see the success than to stay with me for 2-3 months and then they can't afford it anymore because I could charge a monthly retainer. So people are always trying to pick my brain on like, how is she still doing this?
Yeah, no, that's good though. And you've got integrity. That's the main thing. You want these people to get results. You don't just want the easy, quick win and money wise for yourself. So that's really valuable to know. So when it comes to technology, then what's actually making you nervous at the moment, would you say?
I guess everybody talks about this chat GPT. It is kind of unique. I mean, I actually enjoy it right now, but it is scary with so much when you're reading about, oh, it's going to take over jobs and this and that. And it'll take over some jobs for sure. Will it take over all of them? We'll see, and then you think of the movie like I, Robot and all this. It's like, oh, is this the world that we're coming into? I hope not.
Yeah, it's
So that's
a fascinating. Well, I mean, the thing is, you still have to have a person to input and put those prompts in, and be
Right.
able to engineer it to do what you need it to do. But yeah, everyone's got concerns, I think, within certain industries. Obviously, it benefits our businesses in the way that we help people create their key talking points and stories. It helps with a lot of that. But I think, well, obviously, with what we're doing now and having these human conversations, especially with podcasts and being on video and having interactive human discourse, that's something that's going to become more valuable. It is becoming more valuable as time goes on, because AI can't really replace that. I know obviously they've got the whole deep fake stuff, but it's still, you never get the nuances and the kind of way that humans speak to each other. I still think it's way off for that sort of
It's
thing.
definitely not 100%. Like I've done certain things with it where, good thing I double checked it, because I'm like, that's not even close to accurate. But it will evolve, and it will, we'll see how it goes. But
See how it goes. Yeah. Well, on the subject of ChatGPT, what would you say for a $10,000 bet that you can confidently do better at the moment?
What can I confidently do better than ChatGPT? Well, I guess because it doesn't have emotions, I can sympathize with somebody. Like somebody might ask me, they might have a situation and say, okay, this is what I'm looking to do. And it might technically be able to tell them what it should or shouldn't do. But then I could say, okay, but here's your story. Emotionally, would you appease to this type of audience or that type of audience? Or here's how you should maybe tailor your message to reach that different type of audience. Like not every, like I had a client who he had a story, but I was thinking, my mind's always going, and I'm thinking, well, you can actually reach this like 5 different type of different audiences. So your message will be a little bit different. I don't know if ChatGPT would do that, because it's just factual. Here's like the textbook way of what you should do. Where I'm more thinking emotions, like, well, who would really like this? It's not just this one person. It's 5 different categories of people. So I don't know. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that one. Definitely, I think the human emotion aspect is something that it still can't quite, match up to at all. But okay, so when it comes to weaknesses, then what would you say that you're working on to improve currently?
Well, no is a word that just doesn't seem to be in my vocabulary. So I think that's one of the weaknesses. Like, I always have a lot of people, I can't tell you how many times they would come to me and say, okay, like, they know that I know what I'm doing. So they'll say, okay, well, we have these thoughts. Here's what we want to do. Like, maybe put together a business plan. And I put together a really in-depth business plan, SWOT analysis, competition and that, like, everything. And so many times I'll be like, okay, thank you, bye. Like, I just put all this work. And the funny part is, if you knew how to do what I wrote in that book, I would see your name everywhere, but I don't. So just because you took it on paper doesn't mean you know how to do it. So I have to learn to just start saying, no, you want me, hire me, and here's what I'm going to do. And again, I don't charge a fortune, but help me to help you. I'm willing to do the job, but I'm not just giving it to you. So
no, exactly. That's right. And also, sometimes you can give everybody, or they can go on Google, and everyone can really do a deep delve and find out every single marketing strategy, but they won't implement it. They're not good because they haven't got the time. They need someone to be able to come into their business and say, look, there's gaps within the way you're doing these things. Let's address them, and I can handle them for you. So that's the whole purpose of why someone hires people like yourself, because they need that extra. They can't be. It's a lot very time consuming being able to figure this stuff out.
But even with digital. Even with digital marketing now, there's so much you could do with that. You can find out, who your competitors are, who's their audience, what keywords are they using to find them, like all of these basic things that before we wouldn't have known. But now you press a few buttons, you can get that info. But most people don't know about that, or don't know how to go about that. So it's all part of what I could do for you. And then once you realize this, you're like, okay, now let's hit the ground running on how we, approach all these. But again, just because I wrote certain things down for you on paper and you took it, you know what to do with it now. It's not just 1, 2, 3. This is 35 years experience,
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, judging that human emotion and really knowing deep delve into the pain points of what the customers could have is really important. That comes with experience as well. So, okay, well, that's interesting. Well, I would say, if you've got 60 seconds, what would teach the audience something that would change our lives? What would you suggest? Doesn't have to be exactly 60 seconds. It can be
interesting. Well, I guess, one, again, just don't,
Hold on a second, let me just get sorry, a bit of interruption there.
That's okay.
Sorry, so we've broken up a little bit there. If we carry on, Patricia.
Okay. It's all good. That's okay. I guess it's just 2 things. One, again, never stop learning, because you're going to just get stuck behind and everybody's going to go right past you. And then also believe in yourself. So many people always would tell me, you can't do this. You'll never do this. No, this will never happen. As long as you believe in yourself, and you like, my goal was to prove everybody wrong. I know what I want to do. I'm going to do it. And at the end of the day, you know how good it feels to be like, yeah, and you said I couldn't do it. So believe in yourself, have faith in yourself, put in the effort, and, think about how it will feel to tell everybody who told you couldn't do it, look what I just did, So yeah, that's my advice. In under 60 seconds.
That's fair enough. That's brilliant. Well, sorry, but just to let our audience know, we are having some technical. I think it's the internet. I'm not sure. Could be all to do with the weather or something, and the time. The time's a bit sun, but yeah, that's really good advice. And Patricia, it's been wonderful speaking to you. Where do we find more information about yourself and your books?
Okay, well, I have my LinkedIn. It's Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. My company website is Pristine Advisors, and that's advisors with an ERS, ADVISERS.com. I also have another website, pbaronowski.com. yeah, and my email, pbaronowski@pristineadvisors.com, and I'm happy to send you anything you want, any information on the books. They're on Amazon. Yeah.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, Patricia, it's been an absolute pleasure. And
Thank you.
from what you've told me about your history, I think it would be a really valuable read, those books. I think
Thank
that
you.
would really inspire people and get them maybe be feeling a bit more grateful for what they've got in their lives, considering they don't have to
Yeah.
necessarily have gone through those struggles. But people who are struggling as well, it will be something to take from that. So, well, just to let our audience know, if you do wish to build out a thought leadership journey process and start talking on podcasts and really embrace the power of the human connection and human voice, visit us at podcastguesting.pro, and we'll be able to provide you with more information. And Patricia, it's been wonderful, and thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for
And
having
you
me.
look after yourself.
Yes, thank you
No
so
problem
much.
at all. All right. No
Bye.
worries. You take care, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Bye.